You are listening to the Monday Night War Review, where frankincense, big business, and big techs chronologically review the Monday Night Wars from 1995 to 2001 between WCW Nitro and WWF Monday Night Raw. Join us for this roller coaster ride of nostalgia and hilarity.
It's my life in the box in front of me. Taking talk in my arms is the soul of me. You walk by, ask to see me laying face down.
So welcome to the Monday Night War Review, where we chronologically review the Monday Night Wars between Raw and Nitro from 1995 to 2001. Today we are doing the October 23rd, 1995 episodes of the two shows. Monday Night Raw is coming off of a pay-per-view. It's coming off of In Your House 4, which was in Winnipeg. And so the 132nd episode of Raw is actually live from Brandon, Manitoba, Canada. It has an interesting card. We have a 20-man battle royal to determine the Intercontinental Championship #1 contender. We also have the debut of a character named Avatar. And we have a quick segment of Bob Backlund running for president. And we also have Bertha Faye and Alundra Blaze as the main event in a WWF Women's Championship match. Did a 2.2 in the ratings. We have Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary as usual. Before we jump in, how would you guys describe this episode of Monday Night Raw?
I was really into the Battle Royal, and then it was like downhill from there.
The Battle Royal wasn't horrible. And it actually, I was kept into it because I didn't know who was going to actually win it. But the Big Bertha Faye versus Alundra Blaze, that was rough.
Yeah, like Battle Royals are always something that's like really exciting as an idea on paper. I feel like they're hard to kind of execute in terms of like making them interesting. But I'm with you guys. Like I was pretty into the Battle Royal, and just, we had predicted different names. We had thrown some names around. Like, I originally thought it was going to be Razor before we saw what happened in Your House, where he ended up winning the Intercontinental Championship. And we also threw around Gold Dust, but then he didn't end up being in it. Pretty sure Business threw out Savio Vega last time. Yes, so Savio was indeed in it, and he made it pretty far.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, wound up being the best guess.
Yeah, that ended up being the best guess, yeah. And when I saw who was in it, I thought it was going to be Psycho Sid. Because, like, I was, like, looking at all these people who were, like, in the Battle Royal, and I was like, oh, it's got to be Sid, right? Like, I mean, he was probably the biggest star, like, biggest name in the Battle Royal. And they were kind of pushing it like he was going to be the one to win. He had, like, a promo backstage before it started, and he actually came out with his entrance music, and whereas a lot of guys were just already in the ring to start. But as we will see, it was not the Psycho One who ended up winning the whole thing. So the show starts with Vince McMahon recapping In Your House 4, talks about Brett and Diesel having their little brawl at the end of the Diesel Bulldog match. They promote that Brett and Diesel will be main eventing Survivor Series in a championship match. They also talk about how Razor Ramon became the first ever 4-time Intercontinental Champion. And then they get right into the Battle Royal. So I was able to find a full list, guys, of all the people in it. So we have Sid, Henry Godwinn, Marty Jannetty, Fatu, Bob Holly, Barry Horowitz, Skip, Aldo Montoya, Hakushi, Bam Bam, Duke the Dumpster Droese, Jean-Pierre Lafitte, Rad Radford, King Kong Bundy, Isaac Yankem, Kama, Savio Vega, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Owen Hart, and the 1-2-3 Kid.
Duke the Dumpster Droese is not Crush, right?
No, different guys.
Oh, God, I thought they were the same person.
No. Crush did have kind of a lot of iterations, but no, he was not Duke the Dumpster. Yeah, I think Droese was actually a real Trash Man. Apparently Vince did this a lot, where he would just like take the actual job of the person and like turn it into a gimmick. I think we might get Drosy and Hunter Hearst Helmsley. That would kind of make sense as a little feud. The stuck-up guy versus the Trash Man. Apparently Waylon Mercy was supposed to be in it, but he was injured. And Razor was also originally supposed to be in it, but then they did the last-second booking decision to give him the title.
How was Waylon Mercy injured? I don't think we've seen him do anything. Like, one match.
Well, so at In Your House 3, which we talked about during one of our Raw and Nitro reviews, he did have a match at In Your House 3 with Savio Vega. But that's the only match that we've covered at all. So maybe he had matches on Superstars. Oh, they did mention that he was going to face Diesel in a non-title match on like Superstars or something. He was kind of older. I think the guy's real name is like Dan Spivey or something like that. And he was kind of like older at this point. So who knows how he got injured. Yeah, Psycho Sid is the last participant to enter. He kind of yells at everyone in a promo. We also get a quick Marty Jannetty promo as well. This is apparently King Kong Bundy's last appearance with the company, which is kind of a sad way to end your tenure with the company, I think. He's quickly eliminated by Bam Bam. Things go on for a while. Harwitz tosses out Skip to kind of maintain their feud. We get like a Marty chant for Marty Jannetty at one point. Jannetty probably has the best elimination of the match because he kind of like skins the cat back into the ring and then like pulls Savio out with like a head scissors. That was kind of a nice spot. Close to the end, Bam Bam eliminates Sid, and so then it's kind of like a toss-up from there. Like, oh wow, okay, like who's going to win this? It comes down to Marty Jannetty and Owen Hart, two very good workers that have kind of a little 1-versus-1 match kind of at the end after the fact, and then British Bulldog comes out and interferes and gets some cheap shots in on Jannetty, and shortly after that, Owen throws him out. So we're going to get Owen Hart versus Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental title next week on Raw. I did like that spot where like Owen Hart was holding onto the ropes forever, and Jannetty kept punching him to try to get him to like fall out, and first Owen's holding like the top rope, and then he's holding like the middle rope, and then I think at the end he was even holding like the bottom rope. But like that was pretty great. It showed Owen's athleticism. Yeah, I mean, what did you guys think of? Were there any spots that I'm kind of overlooking that were kind of nice or funny or anything? Like, what did you guys take away from the Battle Royal?
I kind of felt bad for Marty Jannetty because the night before he got beat by Goldust, and then he makes it this far into the Battle Royal, and yeah, can't win. No wonder he has like personal demons because they won't do anything.
Is it a catch-22 where they don't do anything with him because he has personal demons, but he has personal demons because they don't do anything with him?
That's probably yeah.
I thought the lineup for this Battle Royal was interesting. I mean, you had a mixture of mid-card guys, like top guys or former top guys, and you had jobbers in there as well. As it was kind of moving along and seeing who was like kind of still in the match, it was kind of hard to predict who was going to win. Like, you still had Bam Bam, you had Psycho Sid in there. I thought it was going to come down to those guys possibly in the Final Four, but it gave us a nice surprise there. I really enjoyed Owen picking up the win. And, one spot that we had, you had the Jannetty pin. He tried to roll up, pin, and the King clowned him for it. That was excellent. The finish with Owen picking up the victory. I mean, even though it was kind of a cheap win with Bulldog coming in and interfering, and then it was academic from that point. But I enjoyed Owen winning it.
Yeah, we were talking about when Owen and Yoko were a tag team. We were kind of talking about how nice it would be if Owen could get freed from that servitude and put on his own as a singles wrestler. So I'm glad to see that that's happening. And I'm sure him and Razor will have a great match. Yeah, there were a couple funny commentary things. I noticed on Nitro that Bischoff alluded to the World Series. And he actually alluded to like Manny Ramirez like getting thrown out when he was like sliding into home plate or something. And he was like totally a Braves supporter because it's down in Atlanta and it's like Turner and everything like that. But I noticed that Jerry the King Lawler said that the refs in the Battle Royal were as bad as the umps in the World Series. And I think Jerry Lawler is a Cleveland fan.
Yes, he is.
Because I know he likes the Browns, and I also think he likes the Indians.
Yeah, he likes both.
Yeah, and so I thought that was funny that we had like the Atlanta camp on Nitro talking about the Braves, and then we had King making this this allusion to the umpires in the World Series. And
oh yeah, because if you remember, I mean, the Braves strike zone was huge in that series. So that's one thing that's said commonly about that series is that the Braves pitchers had a ridiculously large strike zone, allegedly.
Well, I just thought that was a good time place, like kind of a time placer for us there, like to remind us what's going on in the rest of the world. Speaking of which, they also alluded to like a United Nations summit during this Battle Royal. And the King even said something about how like he wishes that, or he said that Fidel Castro like wished he could have been in the Battle Royal or something like that. So I thought that was kind of funny. We get a little commercial for WrestleMania, the arcade game. So that was kind of some nice nostalgia there. Jerry Lawler interviews Owen after the Battle Royal. Owen, kind of gives a pretty generic promo about how he's going to beat Razor and become the IC champ. I thought it was pretty funny how Jerry the King Lawler like made fun of Owen's parents, and Owen just kind of like smiled and laughed. Like it was like he called them like prehistoric or something, and Owen just kind of like smirked and like nodded his head. Which just was like great heel Owen stuff. They replay again the final moments of the Brett Diesel brawl after the Diesel Bulldog match at In Your House. Doc Hendricks is hyping up the Survivor Series during what they were calling a Slam Jam segment. I did not remember the Slam Jam segments growing up. He announces the wild card match at the Survivor Series that President Gorilla Monsoon has mandated, where the teams are randomly generated by pulling names out of a hat. So you're going to get Shawn Michaels, Sid, the Bulldog, and Ahmed Johnson against Dean Douglas, Yoko, Owen, and Razor, mishmashing the faces and heels together. Ahmed Johnson cuts a fairly decent Ahmed promo about the wild card match. He says, Shawn, don't worry about it, G. And that he's going to have Shawn's back, and he's going to watch out for Sid and the Bulldog. And he says, if Sid and Bulldog step out of line, I will show you the true meaning of medieval. This is the kind of Ahmed Johnson promo I want. I don't want him talking about making his mom proud and defining the meaning of honor for us and stuff. I want him to just be a mean, badass guy. So I appreciated this promo. Any thoughts on the Doc Hendricks Slam Jam segment or the Ahmed promo?
Not really. I think it's funny that WWF has Slam Jam, and WCW right now with Macho Man has Slim Jim. So
that is
how about
correct.
that?
We did get a Slim Jim commercial in Nitro as well. What do you think of the wild card match, Tex?
Not so much on the wild card match. On Ahmed, though, I mean, I remember as a kid, he had some steam. I mean, a guy with that kind of look, you just wanted to figure out what to do with him, And the weird promo with his mom and all that was not the way I would go either.
It was so short, but we do get this little segment where Bob Backlund is kind of like in the crowd, and he's campaigning, in the arena for his presidency, even though we're in Canada and none of these people can vote in the presidential election. So I thought that was just kind of a funny segment.
I will say I'm really looking forward to the Bob Backlund running for president thing, because it's one of the things I most remember from like childhood wrestling is him doing the whole run. So I think this is going to be fun.
Yeah, he's pretty hilarious. Like, he'll come out with, like, the Webster's Dictionary, and he'll be, like, telling the audience that they need to, like, increase their literacy and their vocabulary, and then he'll use all these like big words from the dictionary and like stuff
Yeah,
like
and he's
that.
probably right. So I did watch the WrestleMania for '95, and there was a whole thing with Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Bob Backlund playing chess in the backstage.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that. That is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, a funny thing about Backlund is that when he was going through this like heel period, whenever like a fan would come up and try to ask for his autograph, he would only give it to him if they could name all of the presidents, which I thought was awesome. Like
I remember that.
a great like heel thing to do. I also remember this weird segment where he was like in Philadelphia and he was like going around and like looking at the landmarks and different monuments and stuff, and then he had a Philly cheesesteak. And he was talking about how like disgusting it was and how it was making Americans fat. And he's like, "We need to put a big carrot down the middle of this thing so you can get carotene and vitamins." And like it was just so amazing. Like he's awesome. Like so I'm totally with you, business, that I can't wait for more Backlund stuff. He's awesome. So we get Avatar. Avatar versus Brian Walsh. Tex, did we already have Brian Walsh on Jobber Watch already?
Yeah, we covered Brian Walsh in the September 18th episode of Raw.
I thought so.
Yeah, he got splattered by Jean-Pierre Lafitte. With the cannonball.
Right. Okay. Well, so he's back. I don't know if we need to go through his whole story again for Jobber Watch, but I mean, Tex, what do you think of our boy Al Snow here as Avatar?
This was rough, man. Because I like Al Snow, and I was a big Al Snow fan during his Attitude Era days and his ECW days. But this is just, what is going on? He comes out without the mask on, then he puts the mask on before the match, and then he like he's botching moves.
Yeah.
It was rough, man. I just and you could see potential with Al Snow. That's the thing. Like you could see he was capable of doing some nice things in the ring, but I don't know, the wacky gimmick and the messed up ring attire and the botches. It was rough, man.
He did some athletic things in the ring, like he kind of like springboard from the apron into the ring and then like hit his legs on the rope to do like a moonsault. I know that. Maybe it's called like an Arabian moonsault or something. I know that has a name, but he did this nice and he actually did a standing moonsault in the ring at one point. But yeah, he definitely had some botches, and I imagine it's not too easy to wrestle in a mask like that. He just looked so unenthusiastic when he was coming down to the ring too. I thought that was funny. I was like, is this guy supposed to be a face or a heel or like, and he's just kind of carrying the mask, like not showing very much like emotion, just kind of giving a couple fans like a high five. Like it just didn't have a lot of like oomph to it at all. Yeah, I mean, he beats Brian Walsh with so he does a standing moonsault, then he gets up, and then he actually stands on top of Brian Walsh's like stomach or chest, and then just does like a normal splash.
Yeah, man. What was that?
It's kind of weird. I thought they should have done like a cross promotion with Avatar and Milton Bradley's Karate Fighters, because like he kind of looked like a character. He kind of looked like a character that would have been in the Karate Fighters game.
Maybe that's what they're going for.
That's the only thing I can think of. And I thought it would have been hilarious if like he actually did some spot where like him and another wrestler were on like little podiums, like they were both like standing on some kind of platform and trying to like kick each other off of it. That would have been kind of a funny segment. I mean, I don't think this lasted very long. Like, I actually wouldn't be surprised if maybe this was the only Avatar appearance. There certainly couldn't have been many.
Pop from the crowd.
Oh yeah, they were dead. Because again, like I think if I was in the crowd, I would have been like, this guy kind of looks like a heel. Like usually, like masked, kind of Oriental, quote unquote Oriental, like masked wrestlers, like who are into karate, like they're usually not faces. I just don't think anybody knew what the hell to make of this at all. Anyway, I guess we'll see if Avatar is back at some point before Al Snow comes and does his whole, head gimmick. during the Attitude Era. He does have another stint where he's part of a tag team called the New Rockers with Marty Jannetty, and his name is Leaf Cassidy. So anytime you slap the word "new" onto a tag team that already exists, it's not gonna be good. That's never worked. Like the New Foundation. You know.
I mean, yeah, you're replacing Shawn Michaels with Leaf Cassidy.
Yeah. I mean, the New Blackjacks. You know, like there's so many examples of it just being terrible. After the Avatar Brian Walsh match, Barry Dudinsky is back. We haven't seen him in a while. And he's encouraging people to buy the Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart cutouts for $25. Not as funny as Doc Hendricks promoting the cutouts. And in general, I don't see why we need Barry Dudinsky when we have Doc Hendricks. Like, Doc is pretty corny, and he's certainly not perfect, but he's a lot better than Barry Dudinsky. We have a quick segment of Alundra Blaze warming up backstage. She's kind of like doing kicks and stretches and stuff. They tell us to call the WWF hotline to hear more about what happened between Diesel and Brett at In Your House 4. And then, boom, we're in the main event already with Bertha Faye and Alundra Blaze. Before I get into the choreography and different aspects of this women's title match, what did you guys think of Alundra and Bertha and Harvey and the whole ordeal?
I would have felt cheated if I was the dad who bought the tickets for this Monday Night Raw, because I don't want to see women wrestling. I'll leave it at that, Big Tech.
It was rough, man. It was rough. Like, I think Alundra is kind of capable in the ring, but you put her with someone as big as Bertha, and it's like there's only so much she can do. And you saw several instances in this match, and even Vince made a comment to where it was like Alundra just didn't know what to do with Bertha Faye, and I thought Bertha was a decent performer, but it was just it was bad. The one thing that was impressive though was the German suplex pin, or the victory from Alundra Blaze. I thought that was impressive that she was able to actually kind of execute that move. But if this is my main event on Raw, I mean, especially compared to what we're going to see from Nitro, it's like, what the heck are they doing?
Yeah, I agree. The German suplex and the following bridge after it were very nice. This is like twice in a row that Business has made a comment about of being very upset if he was the father who purchased something. Because when we were watching In Your House 4, you were saying if I was the dad who was watching Shawn Michaels hand over the belt to Dean Douglas, I would have been like, get this over with. This is taking too long.
Exactly. I mean, I guess that's my measure.
Yeah, the measure is if I were a dad, would I buy this for my kids? You know, they were just in Winnipeg the night before for the pay-per-view. So this kind of felt a little bit like Vince is just like scraping everything off of a table into like a bin, and that's like what the Raw episode becomes. Like, all right, who do we got left that we didn't use that we could throw together into a show? At least Raw was live, which I appreciate. I hate when it's taped, but yeah, this just didn't have a lot going on, you know. Only a few matches, and we hadn't seen Bertha Faye or Alundra Blaze since their match at SummerSlam, where Bertha won the belt from her. So, like, basically, there wasn't a lot of build other than a little bit of, like, a vignette they showed last time on Raw. But, like, yeah, they just haven't built it at all. And, you know, I read online that this was the last time the women's title would be defended on Raw for 3 years. So, just kind of, it's really hard to make people care about it if you're going to kind of treat it with such negligence. I liked Bertha Faye's music with kind of Harvey Whippleman doing a voiceover at the beginning of it. Thought that was kind of funny.
Another thing that I like how in any Alundra Blaze match, Jerry Lawler always roasts her throughout the match. Every time. He said that she looked like a linebacker in a cheap wig. I remember at WrestleMania 10, he said she had $1 million body but a 10-cent face.
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
Poor Alundra.
Yeah. Well, she gets her revenge on the WWF eventually, and we will cover that at some point. She does a dastardly thing on Nitro when she moves over there and becomes Medusa.
Oh, yeah.
I read a little bit about Bertha Faye online. Last time when we reviewed Raw, I said that I thought she was half Japanese. That was incorrect. But she did wrestle in Japan a lot under the name Monster Ripper, which I thought was kind of awesome. And she's Canadian, actually. And she was a Stampede women's champion. Her real name is Rana Singh. And she passed away in 2001. But yeah, I thought she was like for her size and stuff, I thought she was a pretty good worker and definitely had like a unique look and was very hateable, especially with Harvey with her and everything. So they didn't show it on camera, but Vince was saying that she had kissed the referee in the ring, which was making Harvey jealous. I did like Harvey's polka dot tie to match Bertha's outfit. There wasn't a lot going on in the match. There was some big leg drops from Bertha. She kind of just beat down Alundra to get the heat, but then Alundra made her come back. As Tex said, Alundra won with a German suplex. And that's pretty much it. There was a little scrap in the back where Bertha Faye kind of chases Harvey Whippleman back into the locker room and seems like it's kind of ending their on-screen relationship. I don't think we're ever going to really see them again. I think Alundra is now going to be doing a feud with Aja Kong. Because I think at this upcoming Survivor Series, we get a women's Survivor Series match. And there's a bunch of Japanese people in it. It's basically like Alundra and like 7 Japanese wrestlers in like a big like women's Survivor Series tag match. And then I think it sets up like an Aja Kong Alundra feud. So I think that's what's coming next for Alundra. And then the show ends with Jim Ross interviewing Shawn Michaels. And it's kind of following up on the attack that took place in Syracuse where Shawn Michaels was beaten up in a parking lot. What did you guys think of this interview segment?
I just thought it was more, trying to build sympathy for Shawn Michaels. I don't know. Like I said, this time period for Shawn Michaels isn't my favorite. He's just kind of coming off as whiny and all this stuff. I know he just had his incident or whatever, and they keep alluding to it. But I'm ready to let some other guys have some spotlight.
Yeah, so he says that he has some medical tests coming up, but that he should be back in action within the next week. He definitely didn't look very good. His face was still kind of swollen. His eyes were still kind of outlined, raccoon style from like the black eyes, and he just looked pretty haggard. I was reading a little bit more about the incident with what happened to him. And it kind of sounds like it's somewhere in between like the reports that are thrown around. Like, sounds like it was like 3 or 4 guys. And I didn't know this, but Bulldog and 123 Kid were with him that night. And they were all like in a car about to leave this bar, and then the guys actually like grabbed Shawn and like pulled him out of the car. And he got his face like slammed in the car door. I was like, damn. Ooh. Yeah, like they like apparently like one of his eyelids was basically like completely torn off, and they had to like sew it back on. I was like, damn. Like yeah. So I mean, but it does sound like he was like really mouthing off to the guys, and that he was trying to take home some married woman who the guys like knew her husband, and so. Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like he was asking for it in some capacity, like he wasn't doing the right thing himself, but it also does kind of sound like he was sort of like jumped, and he was so drunk that he couldn't really like defend himself very well. When I was reading more about it, I gained a sliver of sympathy for this guy, but at the same time, it did kind of seem like he sort of had it coming with what he was doing that night. He says, I'm not the toughest, and nowadays, I'm certainly not the most popular, which I thought was kind of a shoot, kind of hinting at maybe backstage stuff. They changed the number of guys from 10 Marines to 9 Marines this time. I noticed that. He calls Dean Douglas overrated. I was like, okay. I was like, I could call him a lot of things. I don't think I'd call him overrated. He says that Bad Luck seems to be his middle name. He says that the doctors are going to check on his brain, but he admits that his brain has never been that great in the first place. I thought that was kind of funny, actually. He says he's always been a pain in the WWF's derriere, and he's going to continue to be a pain. which I was like, okay, like, wait, are you a face, man? What's going on here? He also briefly comments with Jim Ross on the wild card match and stuff. That's basically it. They tell us to tune in next week so that we can see Razor Ramon defend his IC title against Owen. And we're going to get Goldust facing Savio Vega in Goldust's television premiere. Was it just me, or did they say Goldust vs. Savio was a battle of two legends? I'm pretty sure they said that.
Oh, geez, I hope not.
I'm pretty sure they said that, and I was like, wait, what? Legends of what? Like, I was like, what? Like, yeah. So, yeah, that was Raw. I gotta say, it's probably one of the worst ones we've done, probably. Like,
I think there was one that was a little worse. But this one was,
up there,
pretty,
right? Yeah.
pretty far down there.
This one was up there.
Yeah.
Wherever.
Yeah. So it did a 2.2, and I was glad. It felt like justice that Nitro beat it in the ratings. Because there have been times where I thought Nitro was much better and it didn't win in the ratings, but at least this time the ratings seemed to match reality. Although, I gotta say, Nitro also wasn't that good. There's some times where I'm like, man, I just love Nitro, and Raw just couldn't compare. This time it was a little bit more like Nitro was the lesser of two evils, in a way. So the 8th ever episode of WCW Monday Nitro was in the Von Braun Civic Center in Huntsville, Alabama. As we said, it did a 2.6 in the TV rating. So it defeated Raw by 0.4 this week. This is leading up to the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, which is going to be on Sunday the 29th, and we'll be reviewing that. We got Bischoff, Mongo, and Heenan on commentary. Mongo says that we are in the heart of Dixie, and so he wants to see some romping and stomping. Pepe and Mongo are dressed in matching denim tonight.
That was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. I gotta say, I actually kind of love Mongo. I mean, I recognize his flaws, but I feel like he's a good addition to Nitro.
I'll say is, I think once he's gone, which I understand at some point he'll no longer be behind the commentator's booth, I'll miss him.
Yeah,
it's just probably will be one of those things you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Well, especially because he's going to become a wrestler, and that'll be a whole nother story when we see him actually get in the ring and compete. Yeah, I think we're eventually going to get Tony Schiavone and Bischoff and Heenan. I think Tony's going to be the person to replace Mongo. But
did Mike Tenay ever do Nitro, or was that later on?
Tenay, we're going to see Tenay pretty soon, because Tenay is going to do a bunch of like segments about Lucha Libre, which I'm looking forward to. And so Tenay was definitely there at this point, and he was more of like a backstage correspondent. I can't remember. Yeah, I think Tenay does eventually announce on Nitro, and Tenay also eventually becomes an announcer for TNA. I like Mike Tenay, so looking forward to hearing his knowledge. So my boy Kurosawa is in the opening match with Macho Man, my other boy. So I was excited about this opening match here. Kurosawa comes down with Colonel Parker, which I still don't really understand why Colonel Parker is his manager. Like, I get that the guy's Japanese, and so maybe he needs someone who speaks English or better English to, like, cut his promos for him and do his talking. But, like, Colonel Parker's, like, this southern, Tom Parker ripoff. Like, I just don't get why this guy would be Kurosawa's manager. But, anyway, I was happy to see these two guys wrestle. I thought my expectations were high, and I felt like they came through. I felt like it was a pretty good match. What did you guys think of this opening match on the card?
Better than most of what we've seen recently. I mean, I like the whole Macho Man had an injured arm, and Kurosawa just like went after it the whole time.
Yeah, I thought it was a solid match to open up the show. It's in typical Macho Man fashion. He's kind of getting beaten down throughout the majority of the match, and then he makes his babyface comeback and everything. But anytime you can get a big elbow from Randy Savage to finish off a match, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting that he basically got his ass kicked for most of the match, and then in the last minute he came back and won. So I think it was kind of designed to protect Macho, but also make Kurosawa look good. Still make him look strong, you know? Yeah, they mentioned that Kurosawa has a reputation for breaking people's bones, particularly their arms, so that played into the whole Randy Savage injury thing. God, Bischoff loves to call the martial arts stuff. He always says stuff like back leg round kick. He'll be like, what a back leg round kick. It's like, all right, man.
The reverse knife hand thrust.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Bischoff kind of considered himself a martial artist. He had a match at some point.
Yeah, him and Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. And Bischoff came out with his black belt and So, a funny Mongo line. He says, this is like a keel hauling. And Bobby goes, what? And I had to listen to it a few times to understand what he was saying. And then I looked up what keel hauling is. And it's this form of torture, basically, where if you're on a ship on the open water, you would tie a guy to a rope and you'd throw him into the water, and then you'd repeatedly drag him underneath the boat. Without letting him drown, just to almost to the point where he drowns, but then hauling him out and then doing it again. And so when he said it, Heenan was like, what? And Mongo kind of under his breath, he's like, when they throw a sailor off the ship. and it was such it was so quick and it was so in passing, but I just thought that was funny. I was like, well, how did Mongo know about keel hauling? And I bet he watched some History Channel thing and he's like, I'm gonna say that in a match sometime. Kurosawa also kicked the ring post at one point when he was trying to kick Savage, and he missed and hit the ring post, and that looked like it probably did not feel good because it seemed like he hit that thing decently hard. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty stiff, good match. I guess it kind of builds up to the whole Randy Savage versus Kamala thing that we're gonna get at Halloween Havoc. I mean,
we need a whole lot of build up to that.
Well, yes, it made him look strong for it at least. I'm guessing that Luger and Savage are gonna win their matches because the idea is if they both win their matches, then they'll also face each other. And so it'd be kind of a tease if they didn't deliver on that. So I'm kind of thinking that's what's going to happen. And I did say that if Kamala beats Savage, I'm going to turn the pay-per-view off. So I might stick to that word. Suddenly after this Kurosawa Savage match, the lights go out in the arena. And this character from the Dungeon of Doom, whose name is The Master, he cuts this promo that's really hard to understand because he's kind of yelling in this deep gravelly voice, and he's rambling on about all this stuff, and it definitely wasn't easy to understand, but
it was insanely confusing. The guy talks about clipping the whiskers of the rare white Bengal tiger, which I think must have been a reference to shaving Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And then there was a discussion of a demon, the Yeti, somehow being Taskmaster's father. I thought the guy was called the Gatekeeper. I didn't realize he was the Master. And then this whole Yeti as the insurance policy. This little bit made no freaking sense to me.
And it was just rambling on, and the crowd was getting restless, and they started booing. I couldn't understand any of it.
Yeah, the fans booed the shit out of it. And I had to listen to it a few times, which is regrettable, because it was... But yeah, he talks about how an insurance package has been delivered, and there's this big block of ice that's just out there in the arena by the entrance ramp. And the Master, who I guess the Master in his earlier years was a wrestler named King Curtis Ikea, who I had like heard of. And I'm kind of interested to read a little bit more about him. But right now he's just kind of playing this non-wrestling role in the Dungeon of Doom, where he's kind of the brains behind the whole thing, I guess, or something, or he's the master, I guess. But he says the insurance package has been delivered, referring to the block of ice. He says from north of Kathmandu, from the Himalayas. He says that Sherpas on Mount Everest have dug out this 13-ton block of ice. And as business said, we get a reference to the rare white Bengal tiger, which is supposed to be Hogan. And yeah, there's some comment about the eyes of the demon or something. It was basically, the whole idea is that the Dungeon of Doom has this Yeti. They keep pronouncing it Yeti instead of just saying instead of saying Yeti, instead of just saying Yeti. Like even Hogan, when Hogan's coming, he's like the Yeti, and like they keep saying it like that. But anyway, the Dungeon of Doom has this Yeti in the block of ice that is an insurance policy for the Hogan Giant standoff at Halloween Havoc. And then right afterwards, so we just had that happen, and then right afterwards, Mean Gene is doing an interview with the Taskmaster and the Giant. So it's like, okay, more of this? Like, all right. And so they keep going on. Sullivan, again, says that the block of ice is an insurance policy. He says something about Hogan is now walking in the land of the madness or something like that. The Giant also cuts his own promo. He also calls Hogan the rare white Bengal tiger. I kind of wonder if that was Hogan's idea. Like, oh yeah, brother, call me the white Bengal tiger, brother. Like, I wonder if it's just because it's like it just seems like something he would like. And yeah, so he says Hogan is the rare white Bengal tiger, the biggest cat in the jungle, but he's running out of lives. And he says he, the Giant, is the real immortal. And then he cackles and cackles and cackles. I kind of almost wonder if they were kind of like, yeah, no one's going to understand the Master's promo. Like, we got to have Sullivan and the Giant clear everything up. Like, you know, we got to just nail this down twice or no one's going to know what the hell's going on. Any thoughts on the Kevin Sullivan Giant promos?
I was just glad that they did them. I was glad that they were brief, and I was glad that they put them in because I couldn't understand anything of what the Master was saying, and I had no idea what was going on. I was so confused.
Yeah, because there was no, like, prior to this, I don't think there was any kind of foreshadowing that they were going to have this, like, additional monster on their side or anything. So
yeah, it was out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I get that it's Halloween Havoc, like Halloween, so we're going to have this kind of monster, you know. I just think for 1995, it's starting to get kind of late in the timeline to do stuff like this. It's just a little too hokey, I think. And it's a little weird because this almost seems more like something that WWF would have done at this time. Like bringing out the Yeti to face like Undertaker or something or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
like
clearly fake block of ice.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's kind of like, oh, we're WCW, like, we're where the big boys play, like, we're the serious, like, big leagues, and, like, but then you're doing this kind of weird shit. So, that was a little strange. Bischoff plugs Halloween Havoc. We get the Macho Man Slim Jim commercial. I liked in the Slim Jim commercial where he's like, what do I like to snap best? Is it arms? Is it legs? No! It's a Slim Jim! And, like, I thought that was good. Another Mean Gene interview. This time it's Mean Gene interviewing Jimmy Hart and Hulk Hogan. He introduces Hogan as the star of Thunder in Paradise, which I thought was really funny.
I gotta find that show because I remember being a kid and actually enjoying that.
Yeah, it was a TV show, right?
Yep. And they had this cool boat.
So what were they? Were they like the Coast Guard or something? Or like what was the idea?
They were good guys. They
Right.
went after criminals. I don't know if they were cops, but it was like him and this other guy, and they had this this boat, and the boat was like decked out with all this cool stuff.
Interesting. We could review an episode of Thunder in Paradise. That would be fun.
Might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, that would be fun. Hogan is introduced as the star of Thunder in Paradise, which I guess was maybe also on TNT? Probably.
Yes.
Yeah. And so Hogan says that he has walked through the valley of the Dungeon of Doom. This wasn't the greatest Hogan promo compared to like others. Like there's times where we'll have Hogan promos and I'll have to write down like 12 hilarious things that he said. This didn't have nearly as many gems in it. But at one point he did say that he was going to go get himself a big bad Harley and then drag the giant around with the bike until the giant disintegrates. Which I thought was pretty good.
That's pretty violent.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. He also says that he might just hang on to these black gloves after disposing of the giant at Halloween Havoc. So, yeah, he was also saying stuff like, and you know exactly what a man in a black bandana and a black gloves is capable of, right, Mean Gene? And it's like, okay, I guess, yeah. But he's definitely teasing that he's going to be maintaining some semblance of this black, darker personality after this is all said and done. They are really teasing the heel turn, which I think is interesting because from what I've read, at this point, Hogan wasn't on board with it, really. Like, he had to really be talked into turning heel by WCW. So, I don't know. And an interesting moment, he also calls out Luger, Savage, and Sting. He calls them his so-called friends. And then he says, you little dogs better line up on the porch and see who has the biggest bark. I thought him calling them little dogs was pretty funny. But yeah, not as good as the promo we had last time, I don't think. Where he's just with Jimmy Hart and they're like cutting the promo on their own in front of like a green screen type of thing. That one we had last Nitro was better, I think. But yeah, what do you guys think of Hogan and his vowing to disintegrate the giant?
As he walks through the valley of the Dungeon of Doom, prayers, training, and vitamins, and he also says ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Very, I like all the heavy religious overtones of what he's saying.
I mean, it doesn't take much for me to enjoy a Hulk Hogan promo. I mean, he even referenced the prayers to the training and the vitamins when he's trying to embrace more of a heel type of persona. I really thought the most interesting part of that whole promo was when he called out his so-called friends, Sting, Luger, and Macho. And, I just thought it was more foreshadowing, like they're really going this way. And I don't know if it's because, like, red and yellow Hulk Hogan was getting, like, a lukewarm reaction. Because, I don't know, it seemed like in a few episodes of Nitro, when he would come in, you had a mixture of boos and cheers, but it was like, it wasn't universal like it used to be. And so maybe maybe folks are turning on, pure babyface Hulk Hogan. He's trying to give him something different.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the evolution take place where we're sort of in this middle ground and he is bringing up the prayers and the vitamins, but then he's also calling out,
ripping on his friends.
Yeah, right. Like it's interesting to see these like middle ground periods where something is evolving and hasn't quite taken shape into what it'll become. It's always like I think that's one of the cooler parts about watching wrestling from the past. It's kind of being like, oh, I remember him as Hollywood Hogan and I remember him as, the red and yellow, but I don't remember a lot about the evolution, and so it's interesting to see it take place. So he ends the promo with "What you gonna do when the man in black destroys you?" Then we get a cruiserweight tag match where Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit are taking on Mr. JL and Eddie Guerrero. Yeah, Tex, what did you think of this luchador cruiserweight tag match?
I was really excited for this one. It was just, fast-paced from the start. And you really had the thing that surprised me, you had some really good tag team chemistry between Benoit and Dean Malenko. And even with Eddie and JL, I mean, you had some nice double-team moves in there. You really had frequent tags. It was excellent. The only thing is, the victory. I didn't like the finish. I thought the victory roll was a little bit ugly. and we didn't see like a frog splash or any of the, signature moves from anyone. But as far as a match on Nitro, and especially compared to what we got on Raw, I mean, this match, you couldn't go wrong.
I wasn't even sure that Mr. JL was tagged in when he got the pin. I was hoping for a Nick Bockwinkel review.
I think Eddie did tag him because Eddie sort of like jumped up onto the top rope, and I think he gave him like a quick tag when he was like up there. So it was sort of, yeah. But I thought Benoit's yellow tights with the black star on the back were interesting. Because I remember back in the day he had like a maple leaf on his trunks. But I had never seen this like star, this yellow black star thing. That was kind of interesting. I guess Benoit and Malenko were playing the heels in this case. They kind of were the ones cheating a little bit more. Alex Wright is out there on crutches, and he's kind of acting as, I guess, a manager for Mr. JL and Eddie Guerrero, and that kind of plays into the ending because before JL hits his victory roll on Malenko, Alex Wright kind of trips Malenko up with the crutch, and so the faces kind of were the ones who cheated to get the victory. I thought it was kind of funny, like, when we had the Guerrero-Malenko match on one episode, they did a backstage segment, and then they did that again this time. Like, they interrupted this match to show Scott Norton and the Shark having a fight backstage. And I was like, come on, man. Like, is that really worth, like, interrupting this match? I mean, it's not like, it didn't take a long time, but I just still kind of thought, like, did you really need to do that during what was arguably the best match you had on the card? Like, but yeah, so as Tex said, JL hits Malenko with a victory roll to get the win. Yeah, I think I would have rather just had a one-on-one cruiserweight match, but I mean, good for these guys that they all got to work and they all got their stuff in and stuff, but I kind of would have liked it better if it was just one-on-one. I think like this just felt like a little like a spot fest, it felt like a little bit of like a little bit of like a throwaway. I think it was on JL, like Malenko hit this like incredible backbreaker where he like took, like JL was coming in off the ropes and Malenko like picked him up and like spun him around and just did this like devastating backbreaker. That was probably like my favorite spot in the match. Afterwards, Brian Pillman jumps Eddie Guerrero on the entrance ramp and gives him like a DDT on the floor. And I just, like, this kind of reminded me of when Pillman attacked Flair out of nowhere. I was kind of like, what, like, what's the motivation here? Like, why is he picking on Eddie of all people? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that'll be a fine feud, and I think those will be good matches. But this is kind of twice in a row where I've been like, what, why, like, what's Pillman's motivation? Like, it just didn't really, like, add up to me. Like, in both cases, he just seemed to randomly attack someone without being provoked, So, I don't know. I guess those will be good matches at least. We have Harlem Heat with Sister Sherry, and they are taking on Lex Luger and Sting, and this is our main event. What did you guys think of this main event tag match?
Did you guys hear some comment? I think Bischoff might have made it like right at the start of this about in your outhouse.
No, I didn't catch that.
Oh, wow.
Damn. Okay, I have it written down. I'm pretty sure someone must have said it like in the lead up to this match, but I was like, oh, that was pretty good. Rip on
awesome
WWF.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed this match. The more and more I see him, the more and more I enjoy Sting. He's just solid.
Yeah, it was a pretty good match. You had, they isolated Luger for a while, which set up, a hot tag to Sting, and that pretty much changed the match. The finish was pretty good. I don't know about, I mean, the flying clothesline was good, but, I kind of would have liked another finish. I don't know. I don't want to get too picky. I thought it was solid overall. I mean, Sting's really good consistently. It seems like he's always bringing it, and the crowd always reacts to him. I mean, the consummate baby face there, but the flying clothesline, I mean, we could have had like a Scorpion Death Drop or something, man. because it seemed like it was like he barely got the pin, the 1, 2, 3. You know, those finishes are, to me, at least in my opinion, are always a little bit less satisfying when the guy is like, you know, he's not out of it. He just kind of like barely got the 3 count, but solid match overall. I mean, again, it really, I mean, runs laps around what Raw had to offer.
Yeah, agreed there. It's definitely better than the main event of Raw. I guess my issue with this is that it doesn't really do much for Halloween Havoc. You know, we are going to have a Lex Luger match at Halloween Havoc, but I can't remember if Sting is on the card or not. But you know, we do get a segment after the match, which leads up to Halloween Havoc. But you know, it just kind of seemed like you know, we'll throw 2 of our big babyface stars in a match with one of our better heel tag teams, and we'll just make that the main event. Like, it kind of just seemed a little like thrown together, a little bit like Savage and Kurosawa, where I was kind of like, okay, this is like nice, but like, why? You know, like, what's this all about? You know, I do love Harlem Heat's music. Whenever I hear Harlem Heat's music, I get pumped up. I like their theme entrance a lot. I'm also a big Sherry Martel fan, so I like getting to see Sherry out there with them. And I was wondering if we were going to see the Colonel, since he and Sherry have this kind of love affair. And then Sherry does take a couple Polaroids out during the match. She takes them out from her skirt, and it's like her and the Colonel, and she's kind of looking at the pictures all lovingly. So that was funny. They go to a commercial break, and then they come back and they're in a rest hold, which is never a good look. Like, and we're back in a headlock in the middle of the ring, you know. This happens in a ton of matches, but it just stood out. Like, Luger was in a headlock and they were picking up his arm. You know how they pick up the guy's arm 3 times to drop it. I just started thinking about the wrestling logic behind that. It's like, if a guy is really on the verge of like passing out in like a sleeper hold, why is he gonna lift his arm up on the 3rd try? Like, wouldn't that be the least likely time that he would be able to raise his arm?
Which
like,
is why it's, you know, makes it so exciting when it doesn't go down all the way.
So exciting. Yeah, I mean, I just was kind of laughing about that. Like, I think that's a really funny wrestling device that is good theatrically, but doesn't make a lot of sense. Right, Sting gets the pin with the clothesline from the top rope, and he pins Booker T while Stevie Ray is distracted. And so Stevie Ray like turns around and he's like, "Oh, come on, man!" Like, he looked all like, "What happened?" And then afterwards, pretty much like right away, the Giant and the Taskmaster come out, and the Giant chokeslams both Sting and Luger. Then Savage runs out to confront the Giant, but Hogan comes up from behind and confronts the Giant himself. Savage tries to talk Hogan out of it, but he's not able to, so he just leaves. So then it's Hogan and Giant in the ring. Hogan's giving him a couple punches, but Giant's kind of no-selling them and just, you know, taking the blows in stride. Then the Giant clubs Hogan down. Hogan hulks up and gets the upper hand, but then the whole Dungeon of Doom comes out and hits the ring. We also have the head of WCW security, Doug Dillinger, and he's in there with like a billy club in his hand. And until they explained it, I was like, who is this guy in a suit with like a nightstick in the ring? Like, and then Bischoff did explain who it was. And then like Dillinger's not really doing much to break it up. I guess Savage is back, and they get the upper hand on the Dungeon of Doom, and then suddenly the floor starts to shake. And the camera then focuses on the giant block of ice, and the giant block of ice explodes, and
there's not a Yeti in there, it's a fucking mummy.
Yeah, you know, you would have at least thought Abominable Snowman or Bigfoot, but no, it's a mummy.
When you're talking about the Yeti, no one's thinking that in like the the mountains of Nepal, there's a mummy walking around. They think it's a giant, snowman.
They've been saying Yeti throughout the show. Why would they bring out a mummy?
Yeah.
I would respect this if they were like literally like, let's just keep calling it a Yeti, but we'll just make it a mummy.
it's really hard to understand what the decision-making process was here. You know, why didn't you say that you dug this out of a tomb inside of a pyramid or something? Or, like, you know, something that actually would have made sense for a mummified corpse. Yeah, so, and it's really, really quick. Like, the block of ice explodes, and you just get the mummy, like, like waving his hands around, and then it just cuts to black, and the episode's over. I guess it did, like, make me interested about what's going to happen with Halloween Havoc, on one hand. You know, I was kind of morbidly curious, like, what's the deal with this mummy? What's going to happen? I think I've seen some clips of what does happen with the mummy, and if I'm right, it's not going to be very satisfying. But I don't know if the clips I've seen are from Halloween Havoc or from a future appearance of the Yeti. This was an okay go-home show for the pay-per-view, because they did end on Hogan and the Giant, and they did tease this weird thing that you would have to find out more about by buying the pay-per-view. I guess overall, like, I didn't feel like this was the strongest Nitro, but it definitely was better than Raw. And I feel like I've said that same thing probably like 3 or 4 other episodes, where it's kind of like, neither was super great, but Nitro was better. What do you guys think of Nitro overall, and what are you most excited about for Halloween Havoc?
Oh, I just want to see the Yeti come out in his rags. I am really looking forward to Halloween Havoc. I'm kind of, I don't want to say ready to get it over with, but I feel like we've been building up to it for a while now, so it'll be nice to kind of get that climax.
Yeah, this episode of Nitro, it was like they used like a lot of main guys on the roster, a lot of names, but like, you know, the matches were good. I mean, they weren't great, they were just good. And then there was, you know, compared to Raw, obviously it wins, but they did a lot of extra things in Nitro that like almost shot it in the foot, or shot themselves in the foot, with, you know, some of the wacky stuff with the mummy and all, you know, and the master and his lengthy promo, and no one could really understand him. And Nitro was better, but it's not like Raw really set that high of a bar at all.
So here's the card that we have for Halloween Havoc. We're gonna have Eddie Guerrero versus Disco Inferno. We're gonna have Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff versus the Renegade. The Renegade is like a cheap Ultimate Warrior ripoff, basically. Yeah. We're gonna have Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko versus the Blue Bloods. We're gonna have Sergeant Craig Pittman versus VK Wall Street. We're gonna have Johnny B. Bad versus Diamond Dallas Page for the television title.
Nice.
We're gonna have Randy Savage versus the Zodiac, I guess, not Kamala. I stand corrected. But still, if he loses to the Zodiac, I will turn the pay-per-view off. Kurosawa versus Road Warrior Hawk. Oh, Hawk's gonna get his redemption for his broken arm, maybe. We have Sabu versus Mr. JL. Another rematch. Lex Luger versus Ming. And then we might get Savage and Luger, depending on if they both win their matches. We're also going to get Sting and Ric Flair versus Brian Pillman and Arn Anderson. And then we're going to get Hogan versus the Giant in a monster truck match and in a singles match in the ring. So it's actually a pretty beefy card. That's a lot more matches than I thought it was going to be. I'm pretty excited for it. I think there's going to be a mix of like objectively great in-ring work and a mix of just hilarity from the Hogan Giant stuff. Sounds like it'll be pretty good. We're going to review Halloween Havoc for our next episode, so you'll get to hear more about it then. What are your guys' predictions?
I think Hulk Hogan is going to beat the Giant. Oh, I take that back. Maybe the Yeti prevents that from happening. Maybe it'll just be a DQ and I can just turn off the television.
Well, I'm actually excited for Eddie Guerrero versus Disco Inferno. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know what that's. I don't know what that says about the rest of the card, but yeah, I kind of predict Giant over Hogan. I mean, I just don't see Yeah, I don't see it happening. I just don't see Hogan pinning him 1, 2, 3 clean. Like if he does, there's going to be some sort of schmaz or some sort of interference. Giants just coming off too invincible right now for I think Hogan to put him down 1, 2, 3 in the center of the ring. So we'll see.
Yeah, from what I've heard, we're in for quite a humorous surprise during the monster truck match. I'm going to say I'm most excited for Sabu and seeing Mr. Wonderful, just so I can hear his theme music, and DDP and Johnny B. Bad, because I want to see Kimberly Page. We'll be back eventually to do the October 30th episodes of both shows, but stay tuned for our next segment where we will cover Halloween Havoc and all the hilarity that ensues. I'm Frank Incensed for Big Business and Big Techs. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.